Here's a look at the market for Tuesday, January the 25th, 2011. Of course, this is the emini S&P that we're looking at, the S&P 500. Yesterday we had mentioned that the 79 area, we've been mentioning this for a few days as support. By the way, these are market profiles. This is what occurred today. This is the market profile from the overnight session, and this is yesterday's market profile. So we knew that the 88 was our barrier on the upside. We can see that it did get through it a little bit yesterday. We're using the same barriers again today. Overnight it got all the way up to 91 and change, and then came back and ended up with an open here during the regular trading hours back well within our containment area. So the market initially went up and tested the 1288 barrier and backed right off and came all the way down and tested 79, reaching 77 right in here. So, open here, went up and tested our barrier, came down and dipped 2 points below our barrier, but from that point basically had a rally on up for the rest of the day. So we're still using these same barriers, and tomorrow is likely going to move beyond this barrier in a substantial way, or at least that's what history has shown us, because of course tomorrow we have the FOMC announcement. So we're going to use those barriers again tomorrow, and still with a bias to the upside. Here's our market profiles of only the regular trading hours, and you can see today more or less pretty well the same range as yesterday. So I think tomorrow is going to give us a good clue as to what's really in store for the next several days. Here is our chart with our software, and you can see our red arrows here indicate short trades. These are of course shown in real time, and the blue up arrows are the long trades. So you can see those here and here. So we did have several trades today. We didn't take every one of them, but we took most of them. And the ones that we did take, we took this short trade right here. You can see the little dash right here, which signifies the exact entry price, and that of course is also shown in real time right when the red arrow was shown. So nice trade there. The market did have a nice dip immediately after that. We're still short, and we had a red filter here getting by the time this trade was triggered. So as a result, this was our first trade of the day, and these trades, these long trades here, were not taken because we were into the red filter. Our second trade of the day, as you can see right here, was triggered short in here, and that was number 2, and it had a really nice fall off. I think that trade actually went something like, I think it was about 6 points in our favor. We did exit the final 1/4 of our position with a 4-point gain. It was actually 5 3/4 points is what the maximum move on that trade was, and 4 points on the final partial. We didn't take this short because of our support. As I was mentioning, that was at 79 in here, and of course we're not going to be selling into support right in here. And even on these two areas here, we're actually not trades that were recommended. If, however, this trade here, at least it did have a bit of room, and if any of our, so in other words, this trade was not taken. This trade here could have been taken as our third trade, but it would have been stopped out on that one. And this trade, of course, was not taken because we're already in the other one. So our next trade was a short trade down here. It did move against us, and we were stopped out on that trade, but the fifth one came along in here and had a tremendous move for us here, holding it all the way up to here. So even though we were stopped out on a couple trades today, we had a couple of really nice ones, and ended up with a nicely profitable day. So as I said, we're still looking in the same areas as support and resistance. If you've got any kind of questions or comments, don't hesitate and get a hold of us at info@eminidaytrader.com. We always enjoy hearing your questions and comments, so don't hesitate and get a hold of us. The The bias is still up, and be careful tomorrow with the FOMC news, and we'll see if the market can hold either above 88. 85 may even act as support, and then of course the major support down there around 79. So if we can get either below 79 or stay above 85 or above 88, those would be new areas for the market to chart. Higher obviously bullish, lower obviously bearish. So that'll be it for today. Thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you again tomorrow.